Yeah. All of a sudden I realized I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not a bad seed. I'm not a sinner who's going to burn in hell. Like, I'm just a person that has a disease. And there's no known cure for it, but there's a simple solution that can arrest this disease and I can have a normal life. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I had felt hope in 13 years. And I'll never forget that feeling.
Welcome to Into Action, brought to you by Touchstone Recovery Center. This month, I've invited two women in recovery. I've met these young ladies over at the Central Coast, where I try to spend as much time as possible lately and get out of Fresno. But when I'm over at the Central Coast, I love going to meetings, and I think I've seen both of these women at every meeting I've been to over there in the last couple months. Both of them have significant time in recovery, and both of them have a very unique story. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Nikki and Elisa, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are here. So this month, we're going over step 3. 2 months ago, we met with Jim Horton and talked a little bit about step 1 and got a family's perspective on powerlessness and unmanageability. Last month, we met with some of the Touchstone staff, talked about step 2 and turning it over. And, I think one of the most difficult steps for a lot of newcomers, myself included, when I first was getting clean, was step 3, and coming to realize that, I'm not in control and that I need to let go. And, most things are out of my control. And like accepting that was really difficult. And then figuring out what I actually believed in was really difficult. And to be honest, it still kind of evolves over time. But step 3 is like essential to my recovery. And I think Elisa and Nikki would say the same. So welcome, and tell us a little bit about your journey and what got you guys into your recovery.
All right, Elisa, start us off.
I'm Elisa, I'm an addict. I started using and drinking at 13. Mainly just drinking in the beginning, small town, bonfire field party type stuff.
What town?
Paso Robles. And I used everything for 15 years. What brought me to recovery was getting pregnant with my daughter. And we were both loaded. Her father and I were both loaded. And I just remember thinking that one of us had to straighten out. And he wasn't going to do it. So that's really what brought me into the rooms.
Yeah. So did you get sobered through going to AA? Did you go to treatment? Like, how did it start?
I went to a few NA meetings when she was a baby, but they didn't stick. I just went. I got arrested with her in the car when she was 13 months old.
Yeah.
And they took her away from me for a week. And I was in San Luis Obispo County. They have a program called POG, Perinatal Outpatient Extended Group. It's for moms and kids. And I'd already been to that program and kind of
faked it.
Yeah. I didn't even finish it. I just went off with one of the other women in the program and we started getting loaded. But I went and called them back because I knew them and I asked for help. And then, to make a long story short, I ended up relapsing, and that's how I got into a recovery home. It's no longer, but it was a recovery home for moms and children.
Cool. Yeah, those are hard to come by. I know there's one in Tulare County called Mothering Heights that, it's really limited on who they will give services to, and the kids have to be, a certain age or younger. And, but I mean, it's really fortunate that they had that program over there, because I don't think, as big of a county as Fresno is, I don't think we have a program for mothers with small children. So
It saved my life. It was 18-month program.
That's cool.
Long time. I don't know if I'd be where I am today if I didn't have that program, you know?
Yeah.
It's a long time, but it was worth it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elisa. Nikki, how did you get sober?
Well, let's see. From Tulare County, so grew up in Porterville, but ended up staying in Visalia a lot. The hotel of Bob Wiley's facility was my favorite overnight place. And I was there a lot. Got arrested 13 times and started getting to the point towards the last several arrests that I was doing quite a bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to that last arrest, I started out as a normie, I should say. I mean, I know I've always been an addict since I was 5, but I lived in a normie household with a mom and a dad, youngest of 5 kids, reasonably happy home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never even heard of the disease of addiction. I never saw people using, you know, my family, country folk, they drank a little bit, but nothing, you know. I had heard the word alcoholic maybe once because, like, they were like, your granddad, he's an alcoholic, you know. And I was just like, I didn't understand that. Like, yeah, he just smelled like really smoky scotch, you know. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. But it just wasn't a part of my life. And that's the crazy thing about the disease of addiction or the disease of alcoholism is it's unbiased. We did not choose it. It chose us. It's not something that you have to have genetically passed down to you.
Yeah.
You just have it. And I did. Winner, chicken dinner. So out of the family, I ended up as kind of the black sheep.
You said, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said 5. That sounds like there's a story there.
Yeah, we grew up a faith family and a lot of church events and stuff and doing that. And actually Fresno, right here in Fresno, that's hilarious. My mom's good friend lived here because I was born here. And so we would come here all the time when we moved to Porterville. Fresno was like our place we were always at.
Come to the mall.
With this other family, yeah. The big churches, the big events, like the things like that. Well, we would hang out at her house, and there'd be like lots of people hanging out. And the women always had, there was a table just like this, but it was like in the 80s, so it had like that cool like lace, like flowy, you know, country blue, nonsense, frilly. It looked like a bottom of a woman's skirt as a table, you know. And they'd always have like a bottle of wine and some glasses, and they'd be drinking wine. And I remember crawling under this table and reaching up and grabbing a glass and bringing it back down because I wanted to see what they were drinking because it looked like they were drinking fruit juice and not sharing. And I tried it, and oh my gosh, it burned my lungs so bad. And I thought, oh my God, that really hurt. I'm going to drink the rest of that. And I drank the rest of it, and then I reached up with the empty glass, grabbed the bottle, brought the bottle underneath.
Oh, wow.
And that's all I remember was just drinking until I had a big, long nap. But I remember that my head felt different, and I really liked it.
Felt warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then just from there, it was like being a good kid. But my dad smoked pipe tobacco. He was a farmer, you know, so he'd always have the corncob pipe. And, you know, as soon as he'd light it and set it down and be working, I'd grab that thing and go smoke the whole thing around the corner.
Huh.
You know, I loved tobacco because it gave me a head rush. Anything that I could put in my body, a controlled substance that changed the way I felt, I liked it and I wanted more. And I didn't know that that's what was happening, but it was a behavior that I've had my whole life. And so looking back at it now, I can see like, oh yeah, that disease was right there the whole time. It became really active. I always liked to party and ran away from home and all that kind of stuff, but it became really active when I got strung out on pain pills. I was a volleyball coach for a lot of years in Porterville, and my shoulders were messed up, and so started pain management, which turned into buying and selling pills, which turned into not being able to afford my bills.
Yeah, it does that.
Yeah, and quickly went to a much cheaper, you know, I think maybe 6 years of being strung out on all of those opiates, quickly went into the cheaper thing you can get on the street. And so I was just a hope to die heroin addict that used everything else as well, but could not get through the day without the drug of choice. And so that led me to a lifestyle with my ex-husband, who was family had a little bit of gang affiliation, and led to some of that nonsense. And I was like just a pretty terrible criminal. Like, I got arrested a lot, but it like did not stop me. I was very ambitious. Yes, I think I could carry 4 TVs. I'll do that. I'll get 4 of them, you know. I think I could get 4 out, you know, all 100 pounds of me at the time. You know, like, I was just very ambitious. And if I could get away with something one time, I was like, go bigger next time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got arrested a lot. I ended up with a whole bunch of cases. And the bummer thing is that I didn't get any drug charges. So
They never offered you a program or anything.
I didn't get a program.
Yeah.
I wasn't the kind of person that they were going to refer to any kind of drug treatment program. And I remember standing in front of the judge. My kids are gone now. I had 2 kids with that ex-husband and the very abusive marriage that I was in. My eldest sister had to show up one night and take the kids. And she did the biggest favor for me. She protected those kids from me. And that was the most loving thing she could do. And I was thinking, okay, just like a couple months, I'm going to get it together.
Mm-hmm.
But that turned into 2 years. And yeah, so that last arrest really saved me. I was looking at a lot of time, and I remember standing in front of the judge saying, like, hey, like, what about like a treatment thing? Like, can I get like less time if I go? Like, I keep hearing people talk about all these drug program things. I had never heard of NA, AA. I thought rehab was like Jello in hospitals. Like, I had no idea what recovery looked like because I just didn't grow up around it. And so I was like, there's like some drug treatment thing, right? And she's like, yeah, well, the judge told me you're not applicable for any of those. You know, I had 16 felonies and 12 misdemeanors that I was looking at a lot of time. And for me, that was the moment where it was like, I started doing math on the years they were giving me. And then I started doing math on how old my kids were. And it just broke me.
Yeah.
I realized I was gonna miss everything, and that it wasn't working what I was trying to do. And that same judge that said, no, you can't have a drug program. And I was standing there, and I remember I was barely 100 pounds soaking wet, track marks all up my neck and arms. And I remember saying, look at me. Why do you think I commit crimes? I don't have a house to even put that stuff in. Like, I'm a drug addict and I need help. She's like, I'm really sorry. I can't do, you're not applicable for any programs. You got to just do your time. And so I did my time. But in that process, my family that had set healthy boundaries and disowned me for some time and was keeping my kids safe from me, I made a phone call to them and I said, I need help. Please, can you guys help me? After I do my time, I'll go anywhere. Just get me to a program. And they had heard this before, and I had never done it.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, this is it. This is the last time we're going to set this up. If you don't go, it's done. And so my family, who doesn't know anything about recovery either, pulled up Google and said,
Yep.
Christian heroin recovery
Yep.
Central Coast. They were like, we're getting her out of Tulare County.
Mm-hmm.
And
Probably a good move. Like,
totally, yeah.
For illicit drugs,
Sure.
I always think getting out of town is the best way to go.
And so they just, first thing that popped up was this 6-month residential faith-based program in Grover Beach called Captive Hearts. And it, you know, I didn't have any programs to pay for it, but I think a total of 5 family members started pitching in. And they did that for 6 months for me. And I went and I did that program, and we did, like she said, it saved my life. It really saved my life. I remember when they took me to my first 12-step meeting, and I did AA and NA the whole time I was there. But the first time I went to an NA meeting, the lights just turned on inside. It's like everything lit up inside of me, and I knew I was home.
Like you could relate to everything they were saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. All
of a sudden, I realized I'm not a piece of shit. I'm not a bad seed. I'm not a sinner who's going to burn in hell. Like, I'm just a person that has a disease, and there's no known cure for it, but there's a simple solution that can arrest this disease, and I can have a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
And That was the first time I had felt hope in 13 years. And I'll never forget that feeling. And that's how I got here.
Yeah. Well, I know, like, for me, it was a long road as well to like realize, oh shit, I need to change something. And I don't have this figured out. I've been trying to outthink it for years, and like, what do I do now? And then look for help. When I got to the third step for the first time, I faked it, to be honest. Like, I was in a treatment center up in Santa Cruz, and they made us do steps 1 through 3. You know, so there was like questions that I had to answer. So I answered them, but I definitely didn't mean it. I didn't really know what I believed yet. I didn't turn anything over. You know, it was still all me. I'm making these decisions, and I can figure this out. Obviously, I didn't get sober that first try, but I know step 3 plays a huge role in my recovery. And I mean, even just, I think of it every time I say the Serenity Prayer, which is often. It's played a huge role for me. So what role has step 3 played in your recovery, Nikki?
For myself personally, because I think step 3 is a very personal step, and the choice that we get in recovery, in AA and NA, or any 12-step program, to find a conscious contact of your understanding is super personal. And so for myself, growing up in church and with religion, I had a God of my understanding that I felt very comfortable with. But there was a lot of stuff I felt very uncomfortable with surrounding that, as most addicts when they come in and they've had a bad experience with religion, and somebody in the church has hurt them, and somebody has called them horrible and looked bad at them. And the disease that we all have is something that we wear on the outside of our body. Like, we in society, everybody is walking around and they are all struggling with stuff. Everybody's got a thing. The anger, the OCD, the codependency, the blah, 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 blah. Yep. Everybody's got some stuff. Like, nobody is exempt. Our thing, we wear it on the outside of our clothes for everybody to see. Ta-da, here we are. This is our grossest dirty laundry right here. We don't get the ability to hide it very well. And so I am so grateful for that. That is the reason I'm such a grateful addict. I'm so grateful that this thing that makes my life a living hell was so ugly and so socially unacceptable. It made me such a pariah of society that I got help for it, and I get to arrest it and be a free person. But step 3 for me meant letting go of legalism. You know, turning my will and my life over to a God. It meant for me that it was personal. Like, I had this personal relationship with the God of my understanding. It was just me and my God. It wasn't the church. It wasn't the rules. It wasn't the legalism. It was such a pure, spiritual, and personal, authentic connection. And I was allowed to just have that. That's all I needed, right? I didn't need to follow all of the rules of 4 walls. There was so much freedom in that. I felt like myself, you know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, I didn't feel like this pious little small girl talking to God. I felt like my goofy jellyfish, whatever, here's all my stuff. I'm fucking mad, God, this is why, blah, 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 and I'm going to throw it all down. And I didn't have any rules anymore. I could just be myself. There was so much freedom in that. And all of a sudden, this relationship with the God of my understanding deepened in a way that I couldn't possibly imagine.
Sure.
It's very real. It's very authentic. It's very dirty. It's very like, this is what's going on, you know? And I learned how to pray, like really pray, like just having this conversation. As that developed for step 3, something started going away in me, and it took a lot of years to figure out what that was, but it was loneliness. Like, for the first time, all of that, being in a room full of people, feeling completely alone. Like, I know that everybody that struggles with this disease has felt that way. It started to go away because I wasn't alone anymore. It felt really, really good. And for me, that's what step 3 was. That's the freedom of letting go of everything.
Sure.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
My turn?
Yes.
You're up.
I mean, it's similar to you. I grew up, when I was younger, I went to church, but I didn't feel like I had a close personal relationship with my higher power. I felt abandoned, or that I was responsible for not being a good person, being an addict, and that my God had like turned his back on me. So when we got to even the second step, as soon as they brought the word God in, I was like,
Sure.
Great. That guy doesn't like me. And I was a sinner. That's how I saw myself, as a sinner. I did bad things. God wasn't going to forgive me. He didn't forgive any of us, that type of thing. And so it took a lot of work for me to find a way to have a close personal relationship with something other than what I already knew as a child. But the program taught me that it could be anything. You know what I mean? And you guys were like, it was the bars in prison, or the doorknob, or the beach, or all these different things that you can start with, so that you can just understand there's something more powerful than you that you can turn to. My sponsor's real big on the first 3 steps, on a lot of things that I come to her with, kind of like what you were talking about, the powerlessness right away. You already know that you have a God of your understanding. For me, I feel, and it's taken me a long time to get here. I'm a control freak, so being able to let go and let God has been really difficult for me. I couldn't do it with anything in the beginning. It was such a struggle for me to not think I had the best idea for myself, for you, for everybody involved. Now it's a lot easier, because most of the things I struggle with are like my daughter, handing over the reins to my heart on my sleeve is very difficult for me sometimes.
Sure.
I feel like I know best, or if I don't know best, I'll find out best, but I am always in the equation.
Yeah.
And that's been the hardest part for me. But for everything else, the third step for me is like a relief. I feel a sense of relief knowing that I don't have to. I mean, you spend that much time being a control freak, there's a huge relief when you're finally like, I don't even know what to do, and I don't have to. And I find that to be so refreshing. It's a lot for me, a lot of relief. And I think that 12 steps are where I learned all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I would not know any of this without the 12 steps and a sponsor, and being that addict and getting that help. I mean, I'm so grateful to be an addict, and I never thought I would say that for years, but I'm grateful because I have to look at myself in a way that most people don't.
Sure.
And take apart what I am and figure it out and talk to other people and get suggestions and learn and grow. That to me is so important. I think everybody should do it, even if you're not an addict.
I agree.
Same.
Yeah,
I agree.
definitely.
I think the 12 steps, it teaches us how to live a better life. It teaches us how to be a better person, how to navigate relationships, introspection is like front and center. Mm-hmm. Like we look at ourselves and try to correct the behaviors that we are willing to address. And then the ones that we're not, like, we have another day. We have tomorrow to do that. The third step for me has been, it's like I said earlier, it's evolved. I think when I first got sober, I was like refusing to believe in God or any type of organized religion or a higher power, because it didn't fit my lifestyle. I was running and gunning and breaking all the rules and manipulating and stealing, and so that didn't align with like morals. It didn't align with like good and evil, and so I just denied it, and it let me live that lifestyle without judging myself. And then once I start to, at least for me, when I started to realize like, there is something more powerful than me out there, and there is a meaning to all of this, and this can't all be a coincidence. When you break it down and like look at all this beauty and like everything around us, when you start noticing that shit when you get sober, at least I did, it changed the way that I view things. So for me, I don't know what my higher power is, if it's a man, a woman, I have no idea. I just know it's there. And I know that like I can feel it, you know? So I don't know. I guess the way that it's evolved, it just keeps getting stronger. And I try to understand it as well as I can, but I know when I'm doing something wrong. That's for sure. It lets me know. So
And over the course of the years in my recovery, it changes. It never stops changing for me because I'm the same. I don't have, you know, it's not the guy in the robe, but it's not this, it's not that. I just kind of have a power, an energy, and it changes all the time. And I feel in the course of working different sets of steps, it's like I can feel myself when I'm outgrowing the idea I have now.
Sure.
You know, I want for more, and I can tell.
Yep.
But it's always powerful, strong, caring, loving. It's always those things that you pick out in your steps. Yeah.
Yep. So I know you both have more time than I do. How many years do you have, and what do you do what is your routine to, I think, you don't know. See, that's how many you have. You have so many you don't know.
Yeah.
That's great.
So I usually ask Mike, so like, wait, do the math.
I just went to your birthday shit
23.
thing. 23, I thought.
Yeah.
So what do you do now to like maintain your sobriety, and has your dedication to your recovery, like, obviously it's changed. How has it changed over the last 20 years?
I still do everything I did in the beginning.
Really?
Still go to meetings.
Yep.
Still be of service. Still have a sponsor. She's my go-to.
Are you scared to change it? I know I am.
Change.
Like to change the routine, to change what works.
Yeah. I definitely have a healthy fear of relapse or getting loaded or my own feelings at times. So to me, meetings are like church. Like, you know, if you get away from them, there's distance there. It's too risky. And I've seen, in this course of my recovery, I've seen a lot of people leave. I've seen a lot of people die. People that were here, that were doing well, you know? And then it doesn't take much for one of us to just go off the path.
Yep.
So it's terrifying. So yes, I do have a healthy fear of that and don't want to stop doing that. And I, in early recovery, I did everything I was, you know, suggested to do. I was super, I was just afraid. I was so desperate to figure out a new way to live. And then I got married in this program, and too soon, if I'm being honest. And I sort of made that my life. I still went to meetings, not as many meetings. You know, I was raising a kid and like cooking the food, washing the clothes, and doing all that stuff. And so my recovery was not as important. It was still important, but it wasn't the same. And then when I got divorced and I was in so much pain and confusion, I kind of threw myself back in.
Sure.
And then basically ever since then, so that's been like 12 years, I think. Recovery's first.
Yeah.
Recovery is definitely first in my life. We go to H&I. I have sponsees, I have a sponsor, I go to, you know, as many things as I can that are recovery related. I don't really have any friends who aren't in the program anymore.
Yeah.
That's the way it is for me.
All of my friends are sober. Most of my friends are in the program, you know, which I think that scares people in the beginning. It did me, but especially like here at our treatment center, that's a scary thought to like start over when you're 25 and everyone you know is doing it this way and you can't do it that way anymore. Or you can, it's not going to work. It scares people, but it's necessary.
It was scary for me.
Yeah.
It was scary. I remember like, you know, people, places, and things that was like kind of beat into me in early recovery. And I was like, but, you know, these are the people I know. This is what I know. And it was terrifying.
Yeah. So Nikki, how many years do you have, and how do you maintain your sobriety today?
I have 10 years.
I remember.
Yeah, I just got my decade in September. I cleaned it September 8th, 2014. Very similar to Elisa. My sponsor ground into me that you live in the basics, so you don't have to get back to the basics. Keep things very simple. And you can add, my life gets really full sometimes and really busy. now it would be one of those seasons that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
But I go to meetings. I have a sponsor, I work steps with her. I have sponsees, I work steps with them. I make time for the still struggling addict. And the still struggling addict is not always the newcomer. You know, a person in a room with a lot of time can be the still struggling addict because life is hard and it gets busy and challenging, you know.
Sure.
Like she said, we do H&I. We have a date night once a month. We like get super excited to see each other and be in the car and get to chat the whole way there, and then pour all this love into these women at a point where they can hear it, and then come home and chat the whole entire way home. It's like so fun and so exciting. But being of service, I don't right now have like meeting commitments. I'm of service in other ways through H&I and through other things and committees that I do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's very simple. Like she said, people, places, and things, you know. All of the people that are in my inner circle that feed into my life and that I talk to about what's really going on are in recovery and working a program. Mm-hmm. This is a program of attraction rather than promotion. If I see that light and that energy in somebody, I want to be around them. I want more of that. I picked my sponsor because someone told me, well, a lot of people told me I should probably pick her because she's like, takes no shit, and I was full of shit. So when I got here, I didn't talk. I was mean. I was closed off. My hoodie was up. I was really angry. I was like, I'm not from here. You don't know me. Find out. Like, you know, silliness, right? Total silliness. And I saw this, you know, someone said, you know, that lady, she's pretty tough. Oh, that lady, this and that. That lady's got a lot of time. And someone just said, you know, just find someone who has something you want.
Yeah.
And she got up there and shared one night, and she shared about, I have no idea, but what I did hear her do was talk about her daughter, talk about how she got her back. She said 2 magic words. She said, I didn't come here to get clean. I came here because I wanted to be a good mom. And it's like she shared my secret with the world. I was like, that's exactly why I'm here. I would still love to use drugs, but for the first time, I want to be a good mom more. And so I picked her to be my sponsor. She's been my sponsor ever since. She had raised, she had gotten clean. She knows her well. She had gotten clean when her daughter was real young too, just same as Elisa, and has stayed clean ever since and raised a beautiful daughter. She did a really good job, and the kind of mom she is very impressive. And I needed to learn how to do that because I actually didn't know how to do that. I love the heck out of my kids, but I got them back right after. And I did not know how to be a mom, so I was so grateful that I had that chick. She had something I wanted, and she helped me learn how to be a good mom. You know, she taught me what to do. But yeah, staying in the basics, not changing anything. And I'm big on you work the steps for the rest of your life. You know, when you finish a set of steps, maybe I finished my first set of steps. I started the traditions. I worked those for 18 months with a guy who is like the service king of Central Coast and who is awesome. And he came to my house once a month for 18 months with about 4 other people, and we worked those traditions, you know. And then I jumped back into steps. And as long as I'm always working steps in one form or another, whether it be in a group study or with a friend or with my sponsor, I think that's really important because she said it so well that it changes.
Yep.
I'm in a new season. My step work's going to look very different. You know, the things that I'm working on now are not related to drug use.
Sure.
But they are related to the disease of addiction. They are related with that I'm constantly working on myself. Therefore, I'm constantly thinking about myself. And I become this selfish beast that's always concerned with herself. And then I try to let that go. But if I'm not thinking about myself, then I'm not addressing my disease. Yeah, it's tricky, you know?
Yeah. So when the two of you work with your sponsees on step 3, is there any questions that you like make sure to have them answer? Is there a approach you take every time, or does it change depending on the sponsee?
For me, I'm mean.
You're mean?
I make them do the step working guide first.
Yeah.
Because that's how I did it myself.
Sure.
You know, I went through that step working guide. I have a love-hate relationship with the step working guide. It's repetitive. Why is it saying that again? It's just rewording the same questions, you know, all the things. But I feel like it's a good foundation, and yes, it is repetitive. And I'm sorry, I don't learn things the first time. I learn them the hard way. So do it and be quiet, you know. I ask them to read the stuff that we're going to do in both the basic text and the It Works How and Why all the way through. I want you to have a thorough understanding of what is being presented to you in the step. And then I just have them answer the questions, and then we go over it. I don't have any specific change that I make. I think it's all the same.
Okay.
In the beginning, we're all the same. We need what we need, and I think that we need that foundation.
Yeah, I agree. That's the generation of my sponsor that I come from. They call it old school recovery. It's just recovery. It's just the way it was. It's just coming from that time of like when NA developed in 54, 52, something like that, right? Like you got clean, you usually went through a gnarly hard detox on the floor, and you didn't have someone patting your ass and giving you a it's okay med, and like you just dealt with it, and then you sat in meetings and they told you to shut up because you didn't have anything to say that they wanted to hear, and you needed to take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth.
Yes.
You know? And so that there is a nicer way to act towards people. Don't get me wrong. Like let's have some humanity, for crying out loud. But
Still a touch of that.
But on the flip side, there still needs to be some healthy boundaries with that, you know, and that can be done in a humane way. But yeah, when you first come in, the step working guide is like, it attacks a lot of gnarly questions, and it is repetitive, because I can tell you that when I worked the step working guide for myself the first time, when I had just gotten clean, my brain was still mush. It wasn't even making like dopamine and serotonin. Like I didn't know how to laugh correctly. You know what I mean? Like
I didn't even know it was repetitive till the second time I went through it.
See, there you go.
I was like, well,
there you go.
Why are they?
Yeah, because you forgot. You read it, you answered it, and 2 questions later, you'd already forgotten what you'd done. Exactly.
Not there.
Yeah, so it's good, and I think that they should go through it. And I don't necessarily like. Yeah, those are the non-negotiables. Like this is how we do it, right? Like once you kind of have a rhythm of what you do. But it's circumstantial to the person for sure, because step 3 is such a personal step.
Yeah.
It is their journey, and it is their step work. That's why I always tell them, this is your recovery. The only thing that I won't tolerate is NA garb or AA garb, what I call. Like it's like this language that maybe people that are retreads that have been in the program a lot, or have done several recovery homes, or have been in a lot, and they answer this question by rewording it with like recovery words,
like cliches,
and it sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's
But
right
it's
up.
bullshit.
And I just stop them right there, and I'm like, that was a really good answer. You get an A. Would you like? Where do you want your gold star? Like, we're not doing this for a gold star.
Yeah.
Why
Sure.
are you trying to give me an answer that sounds good? I'm not a teacher.
Yeah, you're doing this for you.
I'm your friend. I'm just here to listen. And, you know, we had a sponsee that was super good at that. And she's so freaking amazing now, you know, but just not accepting those answers. Like, that's the only time I won't do it, whether I'm just like, yeah, you know, there you go, start over.
Yeah.
Like, my time's important too, you know.
Sure.
I don't appreciate my time being wasted if we're not going to talk about real issues.
But I agree with the steps. Like we're doing that for us. Like I'm doing the step work for me.
Totally.
So if I'm bullshitting it, like who am I cheating?
Yeah, you're cheating yourself, and you're wasting another addict's time who could be helping someone who really wants to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having that pointed out to you in early recovery, I think is important.
It
So
is.
That's why I always
And
go
it
back
makes
to
a
like
big
the hard
difference.
line of
Sure.
old school recovery, whatever you
In
called
the
it.
beginning,
because-
there needs to be a little respect that comes out of it right away. And, you
And
grab
I
them by
was
their hair
trying
a
to
little bit.
impress my first sponsor. You know what I mean? I was still like, everything was so different, and I was so unsure of myself that it was like, I'm gonna say the right answer to make her like me.
Yeah.
You know?
My sponsor would do this when I would do that. And if you ever meet her, you'll know that that's like
see her
It's
doing
not a
it.
good look.
scariest face you could get from her. It's just like,
Try
and
again.
I'm like, is that good? And she's like, yeah. What's the next one?
That's great.
I can so see it.
And then I'm just like come up with some trauma. Say something real. Oh my gosh. Quick, heal. Like, I need to show this woman I'm serious.
It's true.
You know, I remember my first fourth step. The very end of the fourth step, it says, is there anything else that you didn't write down that you'd like to share? Something like that. That's not verbatim. Don't quote me. I don't really remember what it says, but it's something to that extent. And let me just tell you, I had nothing. Like when I worked the step, I worked it very thoroughly twice, that first fourth step. And when we were all done, this is some woman that I had on a pedestal that I didn't really want to tell all the nasty stuff to, because like I thought she was so, it took me years to get her down to like be very honest and like give her everything. I was giving her just pieces of it that I thought were like enough to get by. But when we got to the end of the fourth step and it said that, it was like an out-of-body experience. This thing just flies out of my mouth that I've never told another living soul and still haven't. And I know that lady's taken it to the grave. And I couldn't believe it when I said it. And, and then her face softened a little bit. And she's like, do you want to talk some more about it? Nope, not really.
That's enough.
I'm good there.
And then I was like, I do want to talk some more about it. And I like explained the situation and told her what happened. And just like everyone else that you hear in the rooms that is like so surprised when they do a fourth step with their sponsor, that like, it's not the worst thing in the world that happened.
Sure.
And it's not even a competition. There's no comparison. Like, if it is bad to you, then it's just bad. Let's talk about it.
Sure.
It's not like, part of me wanted to be like, is there a worse mom? Have you ever sponsored a worse mom than me? Like, that's how I felt after I told her. But, she just told me something else. And I was like, yeah, that sucks too, and yeah.
It's funny the things we choose to, or at least the things that I chose to like not share the first time through. Some of them were so stupid, but it was embarrassing, and I just didn't want. I don't need to talk about that.
Yeah, I made a conscious decision to save certain
me
things
too.
for later. Like these are the surface level secrets I'm going to give you.
Yeah.
We'll see what you like. I was in charge. We'll see what you do with those before I let you go.
Yeah. Dip your toes in the water and then. Yeah. So I guess we'll end with. I want to know when somebody's hesitating to engage, and I guess just how about this? When the third step is tough for someone to get started on, which it is for so many people, what's the advice you would give the person to get started on their third step?
It's the same thing I do with all the steps, really, because it's not always the third step. A step will cause a problem for someone no matter what. There's one in the 12 that is going to make you go,
sure.
Yeah. But I just think that you go forward regardless. You just start answering the questions. And you touched on it earlier, but I really love the 12-step program. I love NA because you can have any higher power.
Yeah.
Or anything. And I like to reinforce that because I have sponsees who are like, I say source, I say, universe, and I say Jesus Christ. It's anything. And the language in the book and in the steps, all our literature, it's just blankets it all. Yeah. So even like with me going in, having well, God doesn't like me, so I probably shouldn't, use him or whatever, and knowing that I could use anything I wanted to. I can be a Buddhist, I can be Hindu, I can be anything I am, and the language is still the same, and I'm still accepted, and then making sure that information is given to them, that they can be anything. It doesn't matter. The language applies to any religion or not religion, and just because it says God doesn't mean what you fear.
Sure.
If you fear God like that.
That's good.
What about you?
I'm pretty good at arm wrestling, so I usually ask them if they want to arm wrestle. And then after I slam them down, I'm like, well, I'm a power greater than yourself. I guess I'm your God. Let's get started on step 3. No, I'm just kidding. I've never done that, but I'm going to start. That was a good idea. No, step 3 is set up so cool. Like you, I just tell them start putting the black stuff on the white pages. Put a pen to the paper. This doesn't say you have to have a God of your understanding figured out. This doesn't say you have to believe in a God of your understanding. It doesn't say any of that. as you answer the questions in there, it asks the questions of like, you know, it's kind of like, if you were going to have a God, what attributes would it have? What are some powers that are greater than yourself? And we list all of them. And then as we go through it in the step, we talk about more stuff. I'm like, that's it? 3? You only know 3 things greater than yourself? Like, come on. Like the ocean, how about the car you drove? How about like we talk about all these things that are powerful. You know, how about the wind? How about we go through all of it? And there's been some times and places where I'm like, okay, now like close your eyes or go home and think about it for a while. Think about all the things that you wrote down in your step work that you created. What does that look like to you? Like what kind of power greater than yourself could hold all of those attributes and wield all that power? You go figure that out, what it looks like to you. Pick the color of the hat, the tapestry of like the floor and the room it lives in. Like you design it yourself. And it can look like anything you want. And then tomorrow you could draw a different picture on how you think that looks. But think about all the things that you said.
Sure.
Because that's your truth. You know, and from there, it will change. You will outgrow it at some point, you know? And that's great. That's just growth. Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, thank you both for being on Into Action this month. It's really cool to have people with so much time under their belt, so much experience, and you know, I think it's an inspiration to see people that like still do the deal, still like put in the work and work with sponsees and like, you know, you take your recovery seriously, and that's obvious with both of you. And you know, I hope that when I have 10 and 23 years that I'm still doing that too. So congratulations on your sobriety, congratulations on kicking ass in recovery, and thank you.
Thanks, Nolan.
Thanks.
Nolan, you want to arm wrestle?
No.
Oh, okay.